station. Manx Radio.
Well, fast am I. Good afternoon and welcome to Late Lunch, which this afternoon is at Maughold Church Hall. We're continuing our Village Hall series. We have, H, brought the weather with us today, and this is your first Village Hall, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's not my first Village Hall ever in my life, but it is on Manx Radio, certainly the first time. I've been out to this hall numerous times, various functions. The last time I was here, I was doing a play, I think. I was talking to someone about that earlier on, 3 or 4 years ago, a couple of one-act plays. But the first time on Late Lunch Village Hall.
And I understand you have something of a Maughold song which you might be able to do for us later.
Have you got the words?
I have, yes.
All right. I might remember. We did do it a few years ago.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Since the weather is so beautiful, we're starting
Gorgeous.
outside the Maughold Hall, and in just a few moments we're going to be finding out a little bit about the history of this place. But there are some very famous residents here in Maughold. One of them is inside. She is tinkering on her harp as we speak.
I can hear
but
it in the
another
background.
is very well known to Late Lunch here on Manx Radio. It is Mrs. Yorkshire, the baking bard. And if we just walk over here, just standing with a magnificent vista behind you.
Oh, yes.
How are you? You bought cake, didn't you?
Oh yes, of course. I always bring cake, yeah.
Now, you don't live very far away from here at all.
The yellow house behind us.
Let's see.
Oh, so it
Oh,
literally
that's
is.
definitely within walking distance.
Yeah, it really is a
Yeah,
hop,
yeah.
skip and a
That's
jump.
right,
I think it would be fair to say you must have a poem about Maughold.
Of course, I absolutely love living in Maughold. I've been here 12 years and I actually had my 50th birthday party in the village hall. My daughter was 21 the same month. So we use the village hall. It's a marvellous facility. And there's lots of events go on in Maughold, which it's a small place.
Did you have to make the cakes for your own
But,
50th?
yes, I did actually, yes.
Well, we wondered if you would start the programme with one of your poems, if you don't mind.
Absolutely no problem. It was a really easy poem to write because I wrote it from the heart, and it's a poem called Magical Maughold. A luxurious patchwork of pastures of green, 'neath a silvery blanket of mist. Such breathtaking beauty, a wondrous scene. It's a place surely heaven has kissed. I climbed Maughold Head as the morning sun rose, and the darkness surrendered to light, where the buttery bloom of the golden gorse grows, and adventurous seabirds take flight. Wispy white clouds on forget-me-not skies seem to blush in the warmth of the sun. A chorus of birds sing a morning reprise, as if forming a choir one by one. The waves gently lap at the craggy coastline as the sea wears the sun like a jewel, like diamonds that sparkle beneath the sunshine, looking over towards North Barrule. The village lies tranquil, unspoiled and serene, a perfectly drawn picture postcard. I stop for a moment and drink in the scene as I quietly tread through the churchyard. Oh, beautiful Maughold, a feast for my eyes, changing your mood without reason. From warm sun-kissed rainbows to dark stormy skies, replacing your clothes with each season. A vivid blue carpet in Ballaglass Glen, where the bluebells spread under the trees, dancing to welcome the springtime again, as if choreographed by the breeze. A canvas of colours fades into the night as the sun turns the sea liquid gold. The stars' glowing embers appear at twilight, a magnificent sight to behold. There's things that are priceless in life, they say. Their value is way beyond worth. I hope I live here till my dying day. It's my own piece of heaven on earth.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful. Mrs. Yorkshire, the baking bard. We're going to be hearing more from her later. I think that really does sum up
It
how
does today.
Maughold feels to many people. We're going to be finding out about the history of this village hall in just a few moments. But first, a little bit of Deacon Blue.
The Nation Station. Manx Radio.
We are live from Maughold Church Hall as we continue our Village Hall series this afternoon. Do go to the Manx Radio Facebook page for videos and photographs of what is happening here. We haven't even ventured inside yet. We are standing by
In
a
front
rather
of the original
momentous plaque here,
Yeah.
and we are joined by Kath Collister and Anne Poole. And Kath, you know something of the history of Maughold Church Hall. How far does it date back?
To 1901, and it was built very, very quickly. They were restoring the church, and they had a big bazaar down at Bellevue, and they had a very bad day. They had three tents, one for refreshments, one for the bazaar proper, and one for the raffle, which they got into all sorts of problems with. And the Archdeacon later, when they had a second go of trying to get rid of everything, they really embroidered his words and decided that perhaps he was in favour of forgery or robbery or things like that. But know that the bishop, when they had a second go at it, planted a seed really that church halls, or church rooms they called them then, he extolled the virtues of having them, and so they decided. They only decided in the it was November that they got permission from Tynwald, and by May, you see, they've got the memorial stone here. It was halfway up, and by October, it was actually built.
That was quick.
Yeah,
It's not bad going. Not bad
wasn't.
going.
And they'd already started on the church renovation or restoration as well.
Incredible. Now, Kath, you grew up in Maughold. Was this a pivotal part of your childhood coming here?
It was. And we, of course, used to travel on trams as well. But when they had the opening here, they had late trams for them. Do you imagine the chaos down here when the carriages and the people all mingling out? Probably smelling of mothballs as well.
Well, let's take a walk inside now, because we are standing outside
Just
enjoying...
before we go, just see this stone here, because I've just been reading it as you've been talking about there. We're right in front of it now. The stone laid by the Lord Bishop of Soder and Man on Ascension Day, May the 24th, 1900, with R.D. Kermode the Vicar, T. Allen, and the Wardens W.E. Callow, J.A. Moore, and
Murray.
Mr. Murray.
Murray.
J.T. Murray, is it?
Yes, but the bishop said it was important for 4 reasons that particular day. It was the Ascension of our Lord, it was the Queen's birthday, the relief of Mafeking, and the placing of this stone.
How incredible. We've got some wonderful photographs inside, so we'll just walk up these couple of steps here, and when we go in, we will see that there is a magnificent picture of St. Maughold on a sheet suspended from the stage, which we see as soon as we walk in here. We can see Mira Royal on the stage playing for us.
And Hera as well.
Really can, Joel. We're going to be speaking to Mira a little bit later. And Anne, what can you tell us about St. Maughold?
Well, he was a bandit in Ireland, and of course St. Patrick didn't reckon much of that. So he set him afloat on a coracle, bound him in chains, and set him free, and he arrived at Maughold Head, and it was supposed that he was given a meal of fish, and there was a key inside which opened all his chains.
A wonderful story, and that is what is depicted on that screen.
Yes, that was it, yes.
Absolutely wonderful. And this was painted by Julia Ashby Smythe.
Yes, it's great, isn't it?
It really is, because it just gives something of the history and the folklore of this place. And I mentioned, Howard, there are a number of photographs
There's dozens
here.
of them laid out on the table.
Just
It's
incredible. There is a photograph of Maughold Church Hall from the 1960s. That's on the Manx Radio Facebook page, and you get an idea of just some of the events that happen in this hall.
Well, actually, there's an awful lot going around Maughold all the time, and that's, as we were driving out, on the one hand, you think, gosh, it's quite sort of feels quite remote to a degree when you're going out, you're driving out. It takes longer than you think it's going to get from Douglas. Beautiful setting, of course, and down by the lighthouse overlooking the sea. But like a lot of these villages you've been featuring in the Village Hall series, it's amazing how much actually goes on and how much the sense of community is still alive and well.
I hear something that does happen here is worm charming, which we're going to be finding out a little bit later.
Worm charming.
I am intrigued by
it.
that. But this is Late Lunch. We are live from Maughold Church Hall this afternoon. Head over to the Manx Radio Facebook page for videos and photographs of what we're seeing down here. I'm just going to take a break for a little cup of tea. So let's hear hear Tracy Chapman.
And you are listening to Late Lunch here on Manx Radio. We are out in the wilds, the glorious wilds, I should say, of Maughold in the village hall. Beth and I, a fantastic sunny day. We've just come into the hall to look at the plethora of photos laid out on these tables, just showing the huge variety of life that goes on around this village. It's just everything the year round, whether it's Christmas, whether it's the beginning. We're going to go to worm charming in a moment, but a few familiar faces here. And I noticed just looking to the left, very much in keeping in Crunyak, which starts on Monday, of course. And a few famous faces here just to the left. I see Annie Kissack, I see Phil there as well, lurking. This is the In Crunyak from 2007 from the Church Hall Maughold, with Annie Kissack was adjudicating, as was Phil. Yes,
that's not an easy job. I'm just looking at some photographs of a vintage wedding party which was held a year ago, and it just shows how versatile these spaces are. This was a wedding of Christine and Steve Taylor. The tables were dressed with tablecloths. They had vintage tea sets. You can see vases of Manx flowers. There's also local produce where possible on what was a buffet-style menu, which you can just see photographed in the bottom. And the wedding favours were local chocolate wrapped in brown paper and tied and decorated with a sprig of lavender or a packet of seeds to let love grow. And isn't it just wonderful? And we say this time and time again, this community aspect of these halls and just how alive they really are.
Well, they are, and you only have to look at this picture here, dated, it's this year in fact, 2019, the 5th of March. It was Pancake Day. Now, who's our Pancake Day lady? Pancake Day is always a familiar day, and this is the actual pancake race. They're actually herring up the hills. We have someone here who can tell us a little bit more about it. I think Beth's
Pam,
found just
you
in
are
the corner.
Pancake Day expert.
The pancake
I am,
queen
you're
of
right.
Maughold.
That's me. I am actually the event secretary for the social club, and as such, I am the kind of coordinator of the events we have in the social club. By no means the person who runs them all, but in Pancake Day, I actually do. But this year's Pancake Day, we had a particularly successful event because we had so many people taking part. We had, in the adults race, we had the head teacher, a policewoman, 2 local farmers, a person who runs some holiday homes in Maughold. We had a real representation of the community. It was great fun.
So you better tell us exactly, I'm never quite too certain exactly what a pancake race involves. You're basically running and tossing at the same time.
Oh no, do you have to toss at the same time?
Oh, well, yes. There are strict rules. If you are under 4, then there's no tossing required. However, if you get as far as the adult race, then you not only have to toss a pancake, you have to do it at the run. However, there are a lot of potential cheats in our population.
Cheats?
So could there ever be?
No, surely not in Maughold.
How do you cheat at that then, Pam? Tell us the secrets.
Well, you drop your pancake and just carry on running.
Oh,
Yeah.
aren't you disqualified at the end?
They could well be. But we have lots and lots of events in the social club. The pancake race is the beginning of the children's year. Then we have Parish Day, as you can see, where all getting prepared for Parish Day tomorrow, which should be, I hope, a really good community event. And
That's
then
the bunting's out for Parish Day, I take it. I see there's plenty of bunting around the place.
That's right, yeah. This will start at the village green, as it did when I was a child, with the crowning of the parish queen, and then some fancy dress down there, entertainment by Doon School, who are absolutely wonderful. And then we'll follow that with sports on the field and the famous Maughold Head running race at the end of the day, which should really be a lovely finale to our celebrations.
How wonderful. Pam, we're going to talk to you later about some of the other events that are held here, but this is Late Lunch this afternoon, live from Maughold Church Hall. We'll be back just after this.
The Nation Station. Manx Radio.
We are live this afternoon from Maughold Church Hall. It's a wonderful time to be here because preparations are in place for Parish Day, taking place tomorrow. As we heard, it starts outdoors on the village green. There's a performance by Doon School, fancy dress competitions, knobbly knees competition. Shame Howard wasn't here for that. Yeah, we're standing by a magnificent photograph. Describe what this is.
Earlier, it's absolutely wonderful, laid out at the foot of the stage in a beautiful oak, I think it is, frame. And this is a picture dating back to 1910, and if I read the inscription across the bottom, it says, presented to Mr. Thomas Crane, Superintendent by the teachers and children of St Maughold Sunday School, November the 10th, 1910. And they are all assembled outside the door. The door, I have to say, is hardly altered at all. So if you look at the building, it's pretty much exactly as is. The people, on the other hand, I dare say, aren't. They are all, and it was remarked upon earlier on when I was looking at this picture, why are they wearing what appears to be summer clothing when it is clearly November? I think the answer is they are in their Sunday best bib and tuckers. They've all been told to come along and get dressed up to the nines. They've got their best bonnets on. The men are in collar and tie. The ladies have all got bonnets on. My eye was drawn to this lady here initially because you thought, my goodness me, she looks incredibly cool for 1910 and that she's got shades on. However, I think being 1910, I doubt if she was doing it for fashion. I think she might have either been blind or might have just had an issue with her eyes. But you just see her, she stands out in as much as you think, goodness me, someone wearing shades in 1910.
She really does. And you know what gets me is that this photograph, you see how solemn the faces are, very, very serious. Apart from one little chap just in the middle of the front, he is just breaking into a smile, which
Whereas
is absolutely
his
wonderful.
companion on his left looks distinctly grumpy,
Yeah.
like, I do not want to be here.
And
Bearing
you
in
know,
mind, it might have taken, of course, a few minutes to actually do the exposure. It wasn't just a click and move on.
I'd love to know who these people were. Maybe somebody will be able to tell us a little bit later. But you might be able to hear some harp playing in the background. And I'm
Very nice,
so
this too.
thrilled that once again we have a very, very talented Radio 2 Folk Award winner, no less, Mira Royal, with us. And you might remember, if you were listening to the Laxey Village Hall, then Mira was with us then as well. But you're a famous resident from these parts, Mira.
I am. I'm from here. I've lived here my whole life. It's very close to home.
And did you have a birthday party or something here? I can imagine it's the sort of thing that Maughold residents do.
We used to come all the time for like events and things for Parish Day. I remember being Parish Queen actually, ages when I was about 10.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
I know, it was really good fun. Got a lot of memories in this place. Yeah.
So do you get invited back now as a celebrity musician?
Oh, I don't know about celebrity, but I think it's nice to get asked to come here and play for everyone. So.
Wonderful. And I was wondering whether you'd be able to play us a song. I know you've been beautifully accompanying us this afternoon in the background, but have you got something specific you can play for us?
Of course, I'll give you a tune. I'll play this Scottish tune called Scottish Curlew, which my friend Ray taught me, and then I'll go into because we're going away to Lorient in a couple of weeks, and I'm entering the harp competition there, and I think it's all about Galicia in this year, so I've learned a Galician tune to go and play there, and I'll give that a go as well, which I've never played in front of anyone before, so it could go really wrong.
Oh, well, do you know, Mira, we wish you all the best for Lorient, and thank you so much for being here. Mira Royal, take it away. Mira Royal, thank you so much. It never fails to amaze me how effortless you make that look. Could I pick it up very quickly, do you think?
I reckon so, but a lot of practice, you'll get there.
I always wanted to play the harp. I used to watch Harpo Marx in the Marx Brothers. He used to play the harp when I was a kid, watching the films as a kid. I thought, isn't that fantastic? And then I think I had a very vague try somewhere once. I thought, this is incredibly difficult, so I gave up straight away.
Oh, shame
I
on
didn't even try, yeah.
shame
I think
on
I just
you.
had to try one. I thought, this is very difficult.
Oh, Mira, let us know how you get on in Lorient, and if you don't mind just playing again in the background because it's so beautiful. Thank you.
And I have one final question. What's the ladybird? Is he a good luck symbol on the top of the?
This is it's a harp that used to belong to Leona Phillips, and she passed away a few years ago, and she had loads of harps, and she said that she wanted all of her harps to go to young harpers on the Isle of Man, and so I got her starfish. It's been amazing, yeah.
Beautiful.
Incredible. We are live from Maughold Church Hall, and what's brilliant about places like this is that there are always stories about events that happen here. There are always quirky little tales of things that have gone on in years gone by, and I understand that Keith Carouche is someone that we should speak to.
And a biscuit.
So we will just position ourselves over here. Keith, hello. Oh, have I just interrupted your biscuit? I'm so sorry about that. We'll just sit down here. Keith, you are from round these parts.
Yeah, Beth, I was born in Maughold 73 years ago. So I think I'm unique in that today, being the only born in Maughold person. Yeah. I've got a few thoughts that I'd like to share with you. I might be a bit too long-winded. An older friend of mine, all relating to this hall one way or the other. An older friend of my childhood, Minnie Watterson, she'd be born about 1890. She said any dues that were held in this hall had to be by moonlight. So they gauged all the occasions to be full moon. So they came in the full moon. There were no torches, no cars, and that's how they were. And then in similar vein, my dad, Charlie Carouche, he said that a man came from Cumberland to buy all the Maughold wool every year. And once he'd processed the wool, he made blankets, and the sort of national lottery prize in those days, you came to a whist drive in this hall specifically to win the blanket. It was such a big deal, so they had a better attendance at this whist drive than any other thing. In association with this hall, I'd like to mention there's a picture in the hall, and outside we've got a sundial which dates back to 1700, and the children all play on the green around this sundial, not knowing how old it is. And then in the church we've got the Maughold cross, which is back to 1200s, which predates St. Peter's in Rome, and the porch of this church also. So we're all in association with this hall.
And when you were growing up, Keith, were you aware of how significant things like the crosses were?
No, not really. I did have an excellent teacher, Frances Davidson, who tried to encourage us in things Manx, and she gave us a general awareness, but I don't think that we were really steeped in those crosses at that stage, no.
It's something you appreciate, I think, as you get older, isn't it? If you're living in a place for a long time, and I think you go through a stage in sort of early stages of life in your teens, you might get a bit bored with somewhere, and then later on you really begin to appreciate just how special your local area is sometimes.
Yes, I like the one about Juan the priest who lived up in the wilds at the top end of Cornay, and he knew who the big shots were, St. Patrick and Malachi, but he said, I am the priest in Cornay Dale. So he was big time around these parts. Back to the hall, in the political meetings were frequently held at election time here. My father lost his first attempt to get in the House of Keys, 1945, a by-election, but he got elected in 46, and thereafter the political meetings in the hall attracted massive crowds where people had to sit in the windows and all perch all over the place. And so he went on to win 10 elections from this hall, you might say. This is the sort of root of his politics of 54 years in Tynwald. Back to, I think that the most memorable occasion was the presentation here of an illuminated address, a very decorative scroll, to Sarah Ratcliffe, who later became Canon. Sarah Cannon. She lived in Cornay in a small single-storey picturesque cottage, and she kept chickens and goats. She never had a car. She went to town on the tram. She collected cash for endless amount of charities as she walked to collect. Over decades she walked, and she collected for more than 10 charities, which include the poppies, the guard dogs, the deaf, the blind, anti-cancer, you name it, she was doing it. And the address of thanks to Sarah was signed by the office holders of the patron, the president, all the office holders of every society, and there were at least 10 on this scroll. So it was a summary of the great and the good of the Isle of Man, all marked Sarah's achievement in walking endless miles to do it. So that's probably my happiest memory.
Oh, wonderful.
And as we keep saying, Howard, it really does show just how important these spaces are for all sorts of reasons. It's much more than a church hall in so many ways.
Oh, I think so, and very much now where we have this age of social media and we're hearing all the time people have never been so connected and yet never been so disconnected, and places like the Village Hall is what it's really all about.
Just a couple of, have we got time to do a couple of little fun items?
Oh, go on.
Why not?
Over the years, they have millions in here, and my profession as an auctioneer, I've stood on that stage many times doing the millions, and on one occasion I was selling a box of eggs, and my friend John at the back calls out and said, "How big are they?" Well, for the listeners, I'll have to say that this hall is about 45 feet long. I was at the stage at one end and he was at the back end. When he said, "How big are they?" I said, "Try one." And I lobbed him an egg down the length of this hall. He was smart, caught it, and lobbed it back. I had a lucky second catch, and on my third attempt...
It's all going to go wrong, isn't it?
...to catch him, it went wrong, because there were perpendicular lights at that time, and it was an absolute bullseye score because it hit the light, and then the vicar of the day, who was the Reverend Ewan Corlett, who brought the Great Britain back from Falklands to Bristol. So he was famous for getting egg on his head and the Great Britain.
Oh, Keith, thank you so much. I think we will have a podcast which we will record after this programme, which will be available to download from the Manx Radio website, so we might get some more of your stories and memories there. But let's just find out again about some of the other events. We talked about worm charming earlier.
Well,
we need to find out about this worm charming because there's a photograph.
Worm charming down here with a photograph of what worm charming involves, which I have vaguely heard of it before. It is, here we are, just down on this table down here now. Well, I think it is, you basically try and charm the worms out of the ground by some form or other. I'm not quite too sure how you do that, whether it's making the sound of a seagull or making a sound of another worm, perhaps. But this is the Maughold Church worm charming. Now, there was someone around here who was a bit of an expert.
Who is
on
the
that.
worm charming
Who's our
expert?
Worm charming expert. Ah, here we are. There we are. I thought you looked like a worm charming lady. So, tell us just what is involved in worm charming.
Oh, right. Well, they set out the pitches so and square, and you can water it, the pitch. You can bang on it. You can put forks in. You mustn't dig up though. You mustn't dig anything up. And then supply you with a jar with soil in to put your worms in, and you see how many worms you can get in. When the vicar used to decide how long, I can't remember how long they dug for, about 20 minutes I think, and he blew a whistle at the end and they had to stop. And then there was prizes for the most worms, the fattest worm, the longest worm.
And so on, yes. And no hot worms were, no worm returned, I suppose, but they're all returned to the soil.
Yeah, but not till the evening after dark, so the birds couldn't get them.
Now, there's a good thinking. And I've heard about it before. So how long has this been going on? Is this something that's just been a new...
No, 3 or 4 years. It's relatively new, but it's become, I think it will become an annual event now.
It's an annual thing. And is it, what, the summer did you say, or whenabouts does it take place? In May time?
In May, June time, yeah.
And have you had a go yourself?
No, I'm usually the one that supplies the tea and the cake involved.
You've
And
got
tea
the
and
right
cake
idea
are
there.
crucial
Oh,
to
it's-
events like this. And I
any
know
village hall has to have tea and cake.
we were talking about some of the events, and of course
All
we've
right.
got Parish Day tomorrow. And
You
let's
can see
just
she's going
find
into the kitchen, working into the background.
Pam again. Oh, this is the hub of the church hall in
Oh,
here.
my
This
goodness.
is where all the work gets done. Yes, you're quite right. I'm not usually in here, though. I must confess, I'm usually out there doing something more.
The beating heart of the village hall.
That's right, but that's not me.
So remind us again of your role.
My role is the event secretary of Maughold Social Club, and I would like to emphasise to anyone who's listening that Maughold Social Club is a thriving organisation. We really appreciate it in Maughold, but we want as many people as would like to join it to come and join us, because it is not confined to parishioners. We want all the parishioners who can to come and join us, but anyone in the island can join the club. And we welcome lots of new ideas. So if you've got ideas of something you'd like to do and you need a group to do it in, then please come and join us. Look at the Facebook page.
And I mean, we've just heard about some of the wonderful events that are held over here, and the people that can use the space, everything from weddings, there's parties, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Some of the more unusual things are what?
Well, I think...
Worm charming?
Worm charming, of course. I think the Hopchinay perhaps is a little bit unusual now. We like, if possible, to keep as much as our heritage alive in the social club, and so we have a Hopchinay event here. It's more aimed at the younger children, because we're hoping that older children are out doing Hopchinay around the houses. But for the little ones, we have a wonderful evening. They have to make turnip lanterns. We don't allow anything but turnips.
Quite right too.
Yeah. They're much harder to etch, but they do a great job. We have a few games, dressing up, of course, which they absolutely love.
Are you allowed bobbing apples?
We often have had bobbing apples, but we haven't done it recently, really because of the time constraint. But what they do is sing lots of versions of Hopchinay, which is lovely to hear.
Oh, has Maughold got its own song then? Because I know obviously from where
Peel is
I'm
a
from,
different version.
Peel, we've got
Yeah.
the
Certainly
Peel
different to
version.
Douglas.
Maughold doesn't have its own, although we do have the original Hopchinay in Manx, which we learned at Doon School ourselves. But we have people coming from all over to our Hopchinay celebrations. And last year we had a really lovely rendition from a boy of 6, I think, who sang right through the Peel version for us. And I've learned in my older years that the way of doing turnip lanterns in Peel is quite different from the way we do them in Maughold.
Oh, is it the way up that you
It's
hold
the
Way
them?
Yes.
up you
Yeah.
hold it.
Yes.
Yes, I didn't come across this until quite recently.
Ah, that's both of us then. Yes, they hold the stalk of the turnip, and so that it becomes a lantern they can carry around, whereas we use the stalk as the chimney.
That's the chimney, of course.
Yes.
What else would you use the stalk?
Exactly.
You'd use it to hold as a handle. We're very sensible that Peel way. So if anyone is listening then, Pam, and they think that maybe they would like to use this space, they'd love to get involved, it's a great way of just bringing people together.
This is what we want. It doesn't matter if you belong to the Maughold community. We just want to foster community spirit, whether it be in Maughold or in the island. Then please come and join us, and we would really welcome any of your ideas and certainly new people to join us.
And what better day to come down here then for
Dan-
Parish Day tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes. Anybody who feels like it, yes, please. We're going to have a really good day. The weather forecast is good, and we should have a super day tomorrow.
Is that throughout the day?
Yes, we start at 2 o'clock with the crowning of our parish queen, and we'll end with the Maughold head races at probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So if you fancy yourself as a bit of a fell runner, then please come, and but be warned, it's a little bit tricky and we don't want any broken ankles tomorrow. So to be a bit restrained as well.
Health and safety.
We did hear that there's a knobbly knee competition, and just
Yes.
very quickly, I know you can't actually see Howard's underneath his trousers, but do you reckon maybe he'd be in with a shout?
Well, let's have a look. Just hang on.
He's just rolling his trousers up. There they are.
They are really, really nice knees. I'm not sure that he'd win. I don't think they're knobbly enough.
I don't
actually.
think they're knobbly enough, actually.
What a
I think they're
shame.
probably just too shapely.
But if he comes tomorrow, then the verdict will be out.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much. We are going to record a podcast after this programme, which you will be able to download at manxradio.com. So thank you so much to everybody here at Maughold Church Hall for having us this afternoon. Thanks to Sarah Hendy, who's produced our social media
Beautifully
coverage,
so,
Mark
yeah.
Burrows, who's been pushing the buttons back at Broadcasting House, and Andrew Beasley for being our on-site engineer. The podcast, as I say, will be available very shortly. But to play us out, as has become something of a tradition with these programmes, particularly fitting today as we overlook Maughold Village Green, here is Kate Rusby with the Village Green Preservation Society. Thank you so much for listening. Until Monday, goodbye.
Cheerio.
The Nation Station.